In this subsection, I'm going to show that you can create a schedule with one user and a time-based loop, sort of similar to what I just showed with the compound test. And I'm going to show a loop that executes periodically, and that's good for custom resource monitoring. And I'm not going to show here, but the other groups can add up to 100% of your users. And you have just one user in this group, and RPT is happy with that. I'm not going to show a full test. I'm just going to show a test with a group that has one user in it. But you can add this to any test that you have. And so I'm going to create a new performance schedule. Store it under schedules. I just want one user in this. I'm going to say add a loop to this. Here you do want a loop because you want this to execute periodically, and we're going to make it time-based and say once a minute, which is reasonable for monitoring something. I'm going to make it less often, but it depends on how long your plateaus are. And then I'm going to add a test to that loop, and I'll add the monitor Apache test. And I'm going to change this so that it runs for 10 minutes. Run for a specified period of time. Otherwise, it'll just run it once. Well, it'll run forever if I'm not careful. So now I have one user in this group that's going to run for 10 minutes. And so I saved it, and now I'm going to run it. I'm not going to sit here and watch it for 10 minutes, but I'm going to jump right to the result. Okay, so what I showed there is that I can have a group in the schedule with one user and a time-based loop. It executes periodically, and it's good for custom resource monitoring. And the other groups that I didn't show in the schedule would add up to 100% of users if you're doing percentage, breaking down groups by percentage. They can all add up to 100%, but in this group you have just one user. You don't have to worry about it adding up to more than 100%. So now I have run that test, and there's the result. And what I'm showing here is that under the performance statistics, under run, I see my APC counters, and I see the values, the names of the counters that I specified. And just to show you where they came from, let's show you the custom code. And here's some of the counters, and you can see HTTP server busy threads is the name of the variable. It shows up. And it shows up under run, and it shows up under APC counters. And there's two versions of the counter. So now I just showed the default report, and what I'm going to do is just grab any report that has a line graph on it and a table. And what I'm going to show is that you can drag any interval counter to a line graph, and it'll show up there. So watch carefully. Right now it says 60, and now it says 2000. So the line on top is the HTTP server busy threads that I captured during the course of these 10 minutes. And there I can drag the values for run to the table. Now that's for the entire 10-minute run, so that's not particularly interesting. But I just wanted to show that this is a different way to add counters to graphs. Now if you wanted to keep that information in this graph, you'd have to save the graph, and it will prompt you when you shut down or when you quit. It'll prompt you to save if you want to save this. Now this is the default report, so I did not want to mess with that. But I just want to show you another way of putting counters on reports. I showed it another way in a different lecture. Alright, so here I showed how to code user-defined data points, and I showed how to make a schedule that's good for monitoring resources that RPT does not monitor. And I showed where to find user-defined data output after run, and I showed a new way to add them to an existing graph. You can also make your own graphs and drag these counters to your custom graph as well.